Hey and welcome, I'm Hammy, and in this video I'll be explaining what we know for sure about various names and faces in Overwatch, along with how likely they might be to be future heroes. Two recent posts on the official boards have got everyone speculating again about heroes, so it feels like a good time to separate the fiction from the assumed fact. First, Jeff Kaplan, in response to a forum post, mentioned that the 24th hero is not who you think it is. Now, whether that's a massive derailment of the Doomfist hype, and hey, I've been signed up to it, or not, time will tell. But the additional fact that multiple new heroes are in development, it's been said before multiple times, but was reconfirmed again in a recent post over the last week, mean that we can certainly open our minds, again, to a little bit of speculating. Having speculated a bunch on Overwatch heroes almost a year ago now, if our next hero isn't Doomfist, then who could it be? Ever since Overwatch was announced 2 years ago, new hero speculation has always been a fun thing to do, trying to work out what heroes and villains might turn up. Some have been right, some have been close, some have been completely wrong. Let's split out the fact, or what there is from the fiction, by looking at where most speculation on new heroes comes from and what we actually know about the sources. When looking at any new hero speculation, you have to look at the sources and take it with a pinch of salt. There's a lot of historic speculation out there. Outside of the really cool fan creations and artworks that are out and about, when people try to speculate about new heroes in Overwatch and actually ground them or try to tie them into the universe, they generally pick one of three things to base their speculation off, all well and good. I'd say these are names, faces, and a rare few characters in universe that have both. Let's go through these three categories and have a look at some of the most speculated or mentioned heroes, be they grounded in lore fact or otherwise, that are out there. Firstly, names. There are a fair few names thrown about in Overwatch's lore already, many of whom we actually know nothing or little about. People love to take these names, speculate, and try attach them to faces to come up with hero ideas. Here are some examples of very popular names to start with. Firstly, Soundquake. I covered the idea of him in a previous video. About a year ago, I was ill, terrible audio quality and FPS issues, but it's linked below. I hope things have got a bit better since then. Now, Soundquake, all we know is that he's mentioned in the cinematic trailer that announced Overwatch, and if it holds true, then Soundquake is a he, and he had chest missiles.
That was so cool! In that one battle, they had Soundquake. Remember, he has, like, chest missiles?
Now, we actually know nothing more than that. He's a perfect example of one of these names. In the video a year ago, I linked him with this picture as pure headcanon. We have no idea who this character is, or even if they're still in the game. I liked his design. I thought that this character's design could fire chest missiles due to the big yellow patches on his front. We saw nothing else about Soundquake, or indeed this character. But then, this character's art style turned up again in Recall. So, I personally headcanon this a lot, but at the moment, Soundquake is just a name. Anything else is personal opinion. It's also worth mentioning that Chris Metzen, in an interview with PC Gamer, actually backed up that several of Overwatch's original lore concepts and names, the Doomfist was just a gauntlet in the original cinematic, and he actually mentioned Soundquake by name in this article as being riffed out as an example of something cool to build out the universe at those early stages. So, like the Doomfist, but the Doomfist has evolved in players' imaginations since then, Soundquake may have just started as a name, nothing more than that. Whether he'll become anything more, I'd love to find out. Okay, let's add another one to the name list, and that is Liao. Now, I covered Liao around launch, when whoever Liao is was first mentioned in the launch blog, Overwatch is Back. And this blog text is also in the art book in the collector's edition of Overwatch. So Liao is another perfect example of a name. We did have one piece of art that may or may not be Liao from SDCC 2016. I covered that in a video of the panel when the cover of First Strike, Overwatch's graphic novel that was going to be released until its cancellation late in 2016. On this cover, we can see all of the original Strike team members. Liao was the sixth mentioned in the blog, and one character on the front of the cover that we don't know who they are. So I and a few other people put this together as being Liao, and the idea has certainly spread around since then. However, because First Strike has been cancelled, if this was Liao, and we don't know for sure that it was, it might not be anymore. And who knows whether Liao is actually even going to turn up or not in future. We just don't know. Another good example of a name. As for another name, well, Gerard Lacroix is a very, very popular one. All we know from Widowmaker's bio is that he was an agent of Overwatch, he was Amélie Lacroix, or Widowmaker as she is now's husband,
Gerard.
And he was specifically tasked with taking down Talon. He died in his sleep, murdered by Amélie, who had been reconditioned, captured by Talon, etc. Look at Widowmaker's story that I've linked below for more details. Now, of course, bar these bio facts, and one interchange between Ana and Widowmaker that we can hear before a match starts, we actually don't know anything else about Gerard.
Gerard was a fool to love someone like you.
You don't know anything about him.
Remember, Gerard is presumed dead. And we've already had Reyes back as Reaper, Morrison back as Soldier 76, Ana presumed missing, and then back as well. So, can another character really be back from the grave? Gerard is another perfect example of a name. He has an interesting story, we'd love to hear more about it, but we have no idea what he looks like at this point. As for other names, well, there's Fusioneer, or perhaps Fusionator, depending on what little kid here says in the original cinematic.
Which one's your favorite? Mine's Fusionator. No. Tracer. Yeah, Tracer.
And there are many other names too. For example, Gabrielle Adawi. She is mentioned as being one of the UN Undersecretaries who was key in the formation of the original Overwatch strike team, but again we know nothing about her since. Okay, so those are some examples of names. What about the faces? Well, we also have a bunch of orphaned faces in the lore and various assets that have been released. Trailers, cinematics, comics, and a bunch more, and people love taking faces and trying to tie them to names. So here's some of the most cited examples. When talking about faces, it's hard not to mention recall. At the end, when Winston triggers the Overwatch agent recall, a lot of people have riffed off the multiple faces that were mentioned there. But it's well worth stressing that we don't actually have any names attached to any of these. They are just pictures. Perhaps some sync up with some other people we've seen in comics since, which I really like for continuity, and I'll give some of those examples later, but there's no other links that we know of right now. Same goes for these two in Ana's origin trailer. At the moment, these are just faces, although some people have matched the agent on the right as perhaps being Mirembe from Ana's origin comic. I'm not entirely sure about that one. Let me know what you think in the comments. After that, of course, if you really want to go to town, anyone in any other trailer or source. Now, the original Overwatch cinematic from 2014 is rife for these. Dual sword guy, poison on the ground guy, as some people like to call him. This guy, apparently not Gabriel Reyes, according to a recent Michael Chu post. And, of course, this image from the original trailer. People like to pick people out from the background. Now, the thing is, we know from this trailer, a lot of names were riffed for it. And also, this image is not Overwatch the organisation. It's not really canonical now. It's got Zen in it, Lucio, Bastion. Figures we know since have had nothing to do with Overwatch, either in its early years as the original strike team, or during the golden years of the organisation, as far as we know. Lucio is the perfect example. So, although this image was relevant at the time, it's since become outdated. As a result, any of the art in the background might have become outdated too. So, those are some examples of faces. There are so many cool heroes and ideas here who could maybe get spirited up, used in future as well, but they equally might not be. So, if you see their faces used, take them with a little pinch of salt. Finally, there are some people in the lore who have both names and faces that aren't heroes. It doesn't make them, of course, any more likely or not to be a hero. For example, I don't see Emily being a hero anytime soon, but who knows? At least they're definitely a name and a face in the lore, so people will speculate off that. I'm actually going to put Athena into this category as an example. Now, you could argue that Athena is just a name, but given this original image had such a strong likeness to her A logo matching up on the front of this Omnic, very smooth looking bot at the back, and that we've seen more in God AI since, I think that Athena is still pretty strong as an option to turn up as some kind of hero in future. In terms of other names and faces, well, there are background characters such as Kimiko, Mirembe, and Sing. We see all of these as well as other Overwatch agents in Old Soldiers, and I actually really like the thought of Brigitte, Reinhardt's engineering fixer or squire. We've seen her in his comic as the two travel around Germany writing ROMs, and of course recently at home with Torbjorn for Christmas in Reflections. Personally, Brigitte could be a fun addition, however I've not done an individual video on her. As an engineer or data fixer, this is the simple question. What would her niche be that Sombra and Torbjorn haven't covered right now? If her characters develop some more, then we could see her perhaps come into a niche of her own, and I think she's a cool idea for a character. I'd personally love to see her come in. What do you think? Last but not least, as a name and a face, well, we've got Doomfist as a name, and we have his old faces, or faces in theory of some of the old people who have worn the name Doomfist, as, of course, the museum in Nimbani will tell us. So there you go. Now when you see some new hero speculation or old speculation, you can try do a bit of a breakdown as to how grounded in what we actually know about the game or not it may be. Of course, all speculation is just that, speculation. It doesn't have to be grounded in the game, so long may the headcanons continue. Hopefully this will help people avoid stating some fictions as facts. Cheers for tuning in. Do throw a comment with what hero you'd like to see in Overwatch soon or in future, and how likely you think any of these might be. If you enjoyed, a like, subscribe, share, or all of the above really help me out. And if you want to explore the lore of Overwatch in more detail, check out my hero, map, world, comic and animated short lore analysis and review, and a whole lot more. Playlists are here. Cheers for tuning in. I've been Hammy. Take it easy.